Hi there. So excited to be here today to share with you what God has given me to share with Him. I so love what I do. I love how He shows Himself so good, and I get to prove His will is good and perfect. So let's acknowledge Him. Jesus, we thank you for this word that you have for us today, for showing who you are, your love and your compassion. Thank you for showing us how much you really do care. We praise you and give you all the glory. So I had an errand this morning, and on my way home, I heard the Lord say, magnificent. And He said, that's your message. And I said, okay. And then He said, I'm magnificent. So I came home, and to prepare, I looked up the word magnificent. And some of the words are spectacular, splendid, impressive, striking, glorious, superb, tremendous, notable, mastery, skillful, excellent, admirable, fine, great, wonderful, terrific, out of this world, like $1 million. And the opposite is feeble, weak, and poor. So God is saying, this is who I am. And then I started researching a little more, and Mary was talking about how wonderful He was to her, and David. And then He said, I want you to tell your story. So my story is my little Macy, my little 4.5, 5 pound Yorkie, 5 pounds when she eats a little more. She has been aging, 17. And I was just always saying, she's going to live forever with me. And never expected her to pass until about 2 weeks ago. And God was talking to me about her leaving. And I said, no, you said I can have what I say. Then He reminded me of what, actually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. And so I argued with him, and then I started even rebuking the enemy. I'm like, you're talking to me, Satan, and you're not taking my dog in Jesus' name. And finally, God got to me, and He said, it's time. I need you to let go of her. And of course, nothing can come before Him. And that was the impression that He was giving me, that nothing could come before Him. So I said, okay, if this is you, okay. But it took 2 weeks to get to that place. And I think towards the end of that 2 weeks, when I was questioning Him about you can have what you say, and nothing's impossible for him who believes, I read an article, and the lady was saying that God said to her about faith, that you can't believe to be a turtle, or maybe it was a frog, I don't know. So there's limits, right? We can't change some things. And getting old is a limit, you know. We all know that at some time we're going to go. And so what happened was 2 mornings ago, and she always sleeps with me, and she's been getting up a couple times a night because she's thirsty and hungry, barking and barking and barking, and I am a sound sleeper. And sometimes she probably barked for a long time before I actually woke up. Then 2 nights ago, she was up, and I had a plan. I was going to give her her breakfast, because after she has breakfast, she goes to sleep. But she didn't want anything to eat. And I brought her back to bed, and I fell asleep. And then around 4:30, I woke up, and I was surprised. Well, it was before 4:30, but I was surprised she hadn't been awake again. She was gone. And I got hysterical and screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed. Tried calling her back to life, like I had 2 other times. And I just felt like this isn't the plan. And forgot all about telling God He could take her if that was Him. I was hysterical. It took me a long time to get it together. And I even said, I'm never going anywhere again. And especially not to this funeral I have coming up. And I don't know. I mean, all of a sudden, as I cleaned her up and got her ready and made the phone calls, the peace that passes all understanding just came over me, and I was okay. I was okay. And, I knew where she was, and he said, she's with her sisters and brothers. She's with me and grandma. My mom just loved her to pieces and always wanted her to take her from me even. And I started getting at peace, and I just couldn't believe I was okay. And as the day went on, I probably can't remember everything in order, but I was on the way to the animal hospital so I could get things taken care of. And I heard her say, "Mommy, I'm sorry you have to go through this. I love you, and I'm okay." And I was shocked. And maybe you're shocked to hear me say that. And I don't hesitate to tell people, but someone said, you should be careful who you tell because they're going to think you're crazy. And of course, because if that's you, because you don't know him, you don't know how good he is. And I was in shock, and I was comforted. And I brought her in her blanket, and she started changing. She started looking young, and she just looked so beautiful in that blanket. Of course, I was still crying at that point. And I actually there were like 4 or 5 people in the room. I had them all crying. I just randomly was saying things about her, like she didn't want it. This is her bath day, and she didn't like taking baths. And then, here she is instead. And I don't know. I guess because I was so deeply in love and crying, I just got to everybody else. And so I was there quite a while and was finally saying my goodbyes to her. And I got back in the car. I started driving home. I came home and decided I had to move on because this is God's plan, obviously. I know the plans I have for you, they're good. I'm not sure I see any good in it right now. But actually, after hearing her talk to me, it was amazing. And she was talking to me all day long. She kept saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then I was telling someone about her talking to me. And then all of a sudden the Lord reminded me that I always said to her, I wish you could talk to me. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you would say to me. And I always called her my baby girl. I never had a baby girl. So she was talking to me. And she even said, it was Saturday, and I was going to go shopping and take her with stores that she could go in. And I heard her say, Mommy, I'm doing just fine. You should go shopping. And I thought, no way. I need to feel bad. I need to grieve. But the thing is, I couldn't because God just made it okay. He just made it okay. And he kind of showed me what the plan was and why. And as well, she was suffering. I was calling her healed, but she couldn't see, and she kept walking into things. And she didn't hear that great. I'll probably add some videos to the end of this. In the end, on her walk, she was jumping the cracks because the cracks scared her in the sidewalk. Nothing has really been the same for the last year. And I just don't want to accept the fact that she was going to go. And I fought it because I want my way. I wanted her to live with me forever, although she's living forever with Jesus, right? He's marvelous. He's wonderful. He's so good. And he wanted me to share this with you today so that you know. Because you know what? We so easily listen to the enemy tell us God is punishing us and God's trying to take away from us and God's doing this and God's doing that. But you know, it's a new chapter. And I know it's coming up in my life. And, you know, with the things that I know, I was even thinking about how I was going to take care of her and thinking about getting her a babysitter for the times that I couldn't take her with me. She started not liking going in the car for very long. First, it was every day she wanted to ride in the car. And then after a while, she just didn't want to anymore. She just wanted to be at home. So Macy, which means gift from God, he gave her to me. And I should tell you about that. I quit my job and 17 years ago, and I saw a dog like that. I never had a dog before. I never really wanted a dog. But I saw a dog like her when I was out walking or jogging. And I said, God, I want a dog like that. And now for sure, I quit my job. I can't do that. It's a $1,500 dog. And I told my brother about it. And he went and got a dog like her for his wife because her dad died and he wanted to do something nice for her. And so anyway, she had puppies and her name was Katie. And I got to take care of her lots of times and fell in love with her. And then she got taken away from me when she had to go back home. But anyway, her first litter, Macy, was in it. And I went and picked one out because I was saying I can have what I say. God's going to take care of me. I'm working for him. And so I picked out a dog. And the day before I got her, my brother called and said, okay, you know, he was going to charge me some money. I think it was like, I don't know, $500 or $700 compared to $1,500. And I didn't have the money. And I cried. God, you said. And he said, don't worry about it. Zach's going to give you the dog. And it's my brother's name. And the next morning he called and said she wasn't doing well. And if you want her, meet Gail, his wife, at the animal hospital. And there was supposed to be a $2,500 surgery for her to be okay. And I don't really know exactly what they were thinking she had. And I had her in my hand. She was 4.5 ounces. Yeah. And she was having seizures in my hand. And I heard the Lord say, she'll live and not die and proclaim what the Lord has done. So I didn't get to take her home. And my brother knew that I would get her healed. And so that night, I got woken up and God said, pray for Macy. And so I knew her name was Macy and I started praying for her. Later found out that she spent all night in a little cage by herself and they didn't give her any water because they didn't want her to choke on it. And later I found out that they need to have something to drink at least every 2 hours. And so she would have died. So I finally got to go and get her, and she's walking around like she was drunk. Her knees would buckle up, and I said, what is wrong with this dog? And he said, she has hypoglycemic. She's hypoglycemic. And so I studied that out. She needed sugar water. And so her favorite thing was ice cream and chicken. And she likes liver. And so that's what I started doing, and she was fine. My friend dropped her once, and I thought she was going to die, and I called her back to life. I dropped her once, and the same thing, I called her back to life. She just was dead. She just was not moving. And God has been so good to me, and I had 17 years with her, and I miss her. But she talks to me. And isn't that cool? Isn't that the marvelous thing? I wish you could talk to me, Macy. And now she's talking to me. And she said, it's so much better here, Mom. She called me Mommy. It's so much better here. And I guess I called myself Mommy to her. And I said, yeah, I know, but I'm here and you're there. And And I just felt like comforted, so comforted. And she also said, I'm going to be your encourager. And I've heard her ever since. She comes and visits me, and I can hear her talk, or before I couldn't hear her talk. And so isn't he wonderful? Isn't he marvelous? Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he kind and compassionate? You know, he makes your wishes come true because he loves you so much. I'm so excited to share this story with you. And again, I know many of you are saying, oh, you are absolutely positively crazy. And you know what? There is a spirit realm. And the fact is, if you don't believe me, you don't know God. And when you don't know him, you can't hear him. And you can't have the experiences like I do. But I want to say, give him a chance. Get to know him. Surrender yourself before him. And notice how he got my permission to take her, which he didn't have to. Why? Because he's humble, he's kind, and he wanted me to be okay. My little sister passed away when she was like 34. So I guess that made me 39. And 2 weeks before she went, God said, ask her to accept me. So we prayed, and she accepted him in her heart. And then 2 weeks later, she had an aneurysm, went into a coma, had a couple of heart attacks, and I was beside myself. And we had a rough upbringing, and she used to cry a lot. And all the way home in the car, I heard her screaming in my head. And even when I was home, it was like she followed me around and cried and cried and cried. I was so upset. And my friend helped me. She said, that's the enemy, and you need to take authority over him and stop him. And so we did that, and then it left. He was harassing me. We had a little disagreement a little bit before she left. And so I'm thinking I was in unforgiveness. And then she left, which made it so much harder. Of course, I love her so much. And that's why the enemy was allowed to harass me. And so there is a spirit realm. There are things that are going on that you don't know. And so don't judge. Don't judge me, but learn. Sit at his feet and learn of him. He's so good. He's so in love with me. So I thought of that experience, and this one was so much better. The more you know him, the more you can believe in him, and the better it gets. The enemy wasn't allowed to harass me. God took care of me. He's magnificent, wonderful, beautiful, lovely, kind, compassionate. If you don't know him, I just want to encourage you. He said he's his word. In the beginning was the word, and the word is God. And I just encourage you to sit at his feet and just listen for his voice. He said, if you love me, you'll obey me, and I'll show myself to you. And I love him, and I obey him. And he loves it when you have faith in him. It makes him happy. And I'm just encouraging you to do that. Jesus said, unless you're born of above, unless you're born of the Spirit, unless you humble yourself and believe, you can't see into the kingdom. You can't see or hear what I hear. You can't understand it. It'll just seem like I'm crazy because you don't know him. So just encourage you to pray that prayer, and I'll pray it with you. Let's acknowledge him. Jesus, we thank you and praise you that you are making the way for us. And the things that you do in our life, you do because they're good for us. Even though we can't see the whole picture, they're good for us. And we trust you. I trust you. I trust you with my Macy, my little sister, and everyone else who's with you that left here. And Lord, each person listening today, I just ask that you touch them right now with your presence. Just Just touch them. And just pray with me. Jesus, come and live on the inside of me. Be the Lord of my life. Show me who you are. I humble myself before you. Come, live on the inside of me and be my God. I want to hear you. I want to know you. I want to see what I can't see now. I submit to you. In Jesus' name. Now, if you prayed that prayer, if you believe he got on the cross for you, that he gave up his life for you so you can be sin-free, then, and you asked him just now, then he's there. He said, I'm knocking at the door of your heart, and if you heed my voice, I'll come and live on the inside of you. He has more for you than you can ask or think. And sometimes you got to let go of something. And it's okay. It's part of the plan, and it's a good plan. It's good for Macy. She said, I'm so happy here, Mom. I'm so happy. I can see, I can run. She was having problems standing up. Her legs were sliding out from under her. And she's happy, so it makes me happy. She's happy, I'm happy, although I miss her. It's really hard to get used to her not being here. But he made it so I could handle it. It's okay. I trust him. He's knocking at the door of your heart. If you heed his voice, he's going to come and live on the inside of you. And then you're going to know what I know and see what I can see. You're missing out if you don't humble yourself before him and receive him. So thank you so much for listening today.